Now, what you're about to see is a demonstration of our 4-step coaching process. And if you remember the 4 steps, first, you're always going to start off with every coaching session with number 1, a learning project from the prior session, assuming it's not the first coaching session. Number 2, you're going to get into a discussion based on what they share in regard to their learning project. That discussion is where you use your questioning techniques, rating questions, question back, third party, hypothetically, self-actualization type questions to really facilitate a dialogue and a greater understanding of what your employee is going through. Now, if the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to ask Ron to go into an actual practice session. So you'll notice I'm going to try to dovetail or gently get into a practice session. Then I will end the coaching session with a learning project due at the next coaching session. So here we go. Hi Ron, how are you?
I'm good, Tim. How are you doing?
Good, good. Last week I asked you to come up with a couple examples of where you embraced the gatekeeper, one where you had success, potentially one where you were struggling and challenged by. So share with me what you came up with.
Well, the successful one turned out to be where I tried to use a little bit of humor.
Okay.
We had sent one of our books to VP.
Okay.
And I got a hold of the gatekeeper. She was stopping me from getting through to him.
Okay.
And, she said, yes, we received your book, put it on the pile that he's got. And I said, well, is there any way we could get ours moved to the top? And she laughed and everything, but still cut me off right there.
Okay.
But I was able to get her to say that she was going to talk to the vice president about that.
Okay.
So I considered that a success, knowing that her job was to cut me off at that point.
Okay.
On the other hand, I got through to 2 or 3 where it was just, I don't know if we got your book, thank you, have a good day, that kind of thing.
All right. Well, if you look at the success that you had, what do you think you need to do to take that to the next level? And before you answer that, what do you think is your ultimate success in terms of dealing with the gatekeeper? What is that one thing that you really want out of that conversation with them? What's your ultimate goal?
Well, the ultimate goal would be to get them to put me through to whoever it is they're trying to prevent me to get through to.
What do you think is prohibiting you from doing that? You used some humor and you got to a point where someone laughed a little bit on reading between the lines. What do you think you need to do to take that to the next level to get them comfortable to push you through?
Well, I think I have got to try to read them to determine if the additional humor might get me through, because I know that even if I do use that humor to that point, their role is to cut me off at that point. So probably I should have tried to embellish the humor a little bit and see if it could take me. There's nothing to lose at that point, I guess.
Absolutely. When you say that you try to read them and you need to take it to the next level, and you said, but I know their role is to cut me off, you seem very in tune with their role. What's your role?
To try to get through.
But you seem very conscientious of their role. Behaviorally, do you think that deters your level of confidence?
It probably does.
Okay. 5, you're confident. 1, you get a little bit nervous when you're at that point talking to a gatekeeper. Where would you be and why?
Probably a 2.
Okay. What do you think you need to do to move towards a 5?
Have a better elevator pitch as far as the product. And, what is it that's going to interest the gatekeeper enough to have them get me beyond them to the VP of sales or whomever.
Awesome. What is another thing that you could do with the gatekeeper outside of the interaction? So you're off the phone, hypothetically, and you're not engaged with them. So the phone's been hung up for whatever the reasons are, good, bad, or indifferent. What do you think you could do differently after the initial interaction to facilitate them being more open the next time you call back to get in front of the contact?
Well, a couple things. I connect with them on LinkedIn if they're available on there.
Okay.
Send them a thank you note for their time. Send them, if there's a book that's appropriate to their role or something along those lines, get them something like that. Something to keep me in the forefront with them, and also a thank you.
Okay.
Those 2 things I think would combine to help out.
How many thank you notes have you sent in the last 60 days?
Maybe 3 or 4.
Okay. Have you tracked if those have been successful versus just the verbal interactions?
No, and the other thing is, it was more to the VP versus to the gatekeeper, so.
Okay. We may try some thank you notes to the actual gatekeeper. The second thing is we might try that almost in every person that you've actually had a good interaction with. So we might change that, and that might present us an opportunity to get pushed through a few times more. Now, when you talked about embellishing with your humor more, let's kind of walk through that. Let me pretend as if I'm the gatekeeper, and we're going to go through that interaction where I'm going to basically say, yeah, the book's on the stack, and then you make your comment about, well, I'd like to get that pushed to the top. Let's kind of walk through how you might take that to the next level, if you're cool with that.
Okay.
Okay. Let's pretend I just said, you know what, Ron? We get a lot of books onto the VP. Your book is on his stack on his desk. So that's about all I can tell you at this point.
Well, I'll tell you this. Our book has gotten good reviews, so I think if we would get that pushed to the top of his stack, coaching would be something that would be right at the forefront for him.
Okay. I can't promise you that I can do that, but he gets a ton of books sent to him, so I really don't know what I can promise you at this point, but I'll do my best.
I understand that. What types of books is he receiving? What kind of things is it on that he gets them for?
He gets a lot of leadership books, to be real upfront with you. The coaching book's the first one we've gotten on coaching, which I think kind of even raised my eyebrows a little bit, but he gets a ton because of his title on leadership and leadership practices.
Well, I think that the coaching is a little bit different than just the strict leadership.
Okay.
It's something that both he can use in his dealings with those under him, but it's also something that could get pushed down to managers, for instance, as sales managers, etc., and something that they could then use working with their employees to get more out of them, to kick things up to the next notch within your company.
Okay, let's break out a role play, Ron.
Sure.
That was fantastic. Did you take it to this level that you did prior in your roll calls?
Probably not.
Why?
Because, well, I knew in this case there was an added emphasis.
Okay.
But aside from that, I guess the gatekeeper in my mind did a good job at cutting me off, and then I figured, well, that's the end of it right there.
Okay. I'm going to give you some feedback.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic. You were confident. It was a great conversational point of emphasis, meaning you weren't pushing, but you went back into questions, which I want to give you on a scale of 1 to 5. I actually thought that was a 5, whatever the ratings mean. The other thing is you sounded a lot more confident than you give yourself credit for. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like you to write out what you just did and certainly script out a couple different choices. Don't do it and read it, obviously. Be yourself, because I think that's one of your great strengths. But come in with 2 examples of where you created success the next time we meet, because I think that's what's going to really put you on the right path. The second thing I'd like to do is I'm going to send you back about 2 or 3 ideas with LinkedIn, thank you notes, and the book idea that you had, which I thought was a great idea, but more targeting the gatekeeper, so we can start to track when we do these things, are we getting through more than the traditional methods? I think by raising your game with the verbal part and the post phone call part, I think we're going to really start to create better success.
Okay.
So next week, come in with 2 examples of where you created success using the verbal messaging like you just did. And then what I want you to do is come in with 1 example of where you created success after the phone call. Does that make sense?
It does.
Awesome. Any questions?
No.
Great. I think this is great. I think you're on the right path, so I look forward to it next week.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.